Hello and welcome back to The Art of Parenting. This is your host, Jeanne-Marie Pennell. And today I have the lovely Holly Swenson. Holly is an RN, mother of four boys, as she was sharing. And I'm very happy to have this conversation, especially about her new book, Stop, Drop, Grow and Glow. It's a tongue twister. Stop, Drop, Grow and Glow. And Holly, thank you so much for taking the time to be here on The Art of Parenting today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Yes. So Holly, I always like to start with my question of how do you define the art of parenting?
Yes, I love this question. To me, teaching and leading your children as they grow, all the while being open to learning and growing right alongside them, I think is super important. And I think that this give and take hopefully will allow for more honesty, open communication, love, intentionality, and kind-hearted kids. I really think that being open to learning from your kids models that learning is a lifelong process. And just because you are no longer a kid doesn't mean the learning is through. I really believe that children will teach you more about yourself and the work you still need to do more than just about anyone in life.
So very true. I have a 27, 23-year-old and they're still teaching me things every day. So it keeps on going. Beautiful. And before we get too involved in our conversation, I'd love if you could take the time to introduce yourself, a little bit about your background and the work that you're doing today.
Sure. Yeah. So I am an award-winning author of Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow. And I'm really on a mission to bring more wellness, joy, and intentionality to parenting and beyond. And in addition to being an author, as you mentioned, I'm a BSN RN, a wellness blogger, and the mother to four incredible sons who are always teaching me. It is a daily practice. And I also like to throw in that I'm a perpetual student of life because I think it keeps the door open to learning, to staying curious, and to help me with my growth. And for me, writing this book, which launched last fall, was a deep calling in a way I could be of service to parents everywhere.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I would love to maybe get into the basis for the book, because just from the title, I'm intrigued as to what that all means about, stop, drop, grow, and glow. So I would love for you if you could just kind of go into maybe your main suggestions or your main, feedback from I imagine as a nurse, you see people and you kind of witness their health journey and so forth. And as a wellness blogger, what are the go-to advice that you have maybe for I would say mothers, just because I think that that's a lot of who listens to the podcast, or fathers as well, of course, but just new parents, because I think when we become parent, we tend to leave our own well-being to the side sometimes, maybe. So.
Yeah, well, so I created this framework, which is Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow to, help parents help take their parents to the next level and help teach parents how to, parent with more peace, patience, intentionality, and joy. And so, I think ultimately, I think it's important to kind of build your foundation as a parent. And so that's kind of what I tried to do with this framework. And so the first part of this is stop. And stop is really learning how to stop and do some self-assessment and reflection on where you are to date. I think that doing some internal gazing on what's going well, as well as, anything that isn't going well, and beginning to cultivate more self-awareness, curiosity, and consciousness on your journey, is a really tremendous way to start. I think just being more available to yourself. And I think when you're a parent, sometimes it's hard to take a minute to assess how you're doing. You're always assessing how everyone else is doing. And so I think really important piece of the puzzle. And so that's going to be the first component. And within this framework, you had mentioned this year, I'm not actively working in a hospital anymore.
Okay.
And so I actually shifted out of that when I had my children, because we started at twins, and I sort of night shifts, and I love being in a hospital, but we made the choice to shift gears. And so I created something called the 5 Rights of Parenting, really to be positive parenting protocol, and a way to quickly touch base with how you're doing. And so that also falls within the first part of my framework of STOP. And so do you want me to go into those? Would that feel helpful to you?
Sure, that would. I just took note on it, and I was going to ask you to do that. That would be perfect. Yes, the 5 rights of parenting. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is a spin-off from my nursing world of there used to be,
Okay.
there's a protocol that you follow, this the 5 Rights of Medication Administration. And so it's used to make sure, you're getting the right medication to the right patient at the right time, etc. And so I thought, I love to put a parenting spin on this. And so that's what I did. And so the first one is right now. And this is learning to be in the moment with your child, and be present, not texting or working on 3 different things while your child needs you. I think it's important to show, when you show up, that you show up fully. And if you can't put aside what you're doing, because there are moments that you're like, you are in the middle of something and you can't be as present as you want to be, but that maybe you give your child a hug and set a time that just the two of you can connect so that they have something to look forward to. Because, in parenting, there are no repeats and time is ever fleeting. So you want to maximize that precious time that you have and live in the moment as often as possible. So that's the first one. The second one is right intent. And this is learning to be intentional with the choices you make, guidelines you set, and how you treat your children. If you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, it might be time to reevaluate your parenting strategy. If you're utilizing, a strategy that maybe was passed on to you that there really wasn't that effective or didn't feel that good, and you're continuing that cycle, you might just give yourself a moment to pause and think about better ways or higher ways or, more mindful ways to connect with your child and also take care of yourself at the same time. And the third one is the right use of speech. And I believe that your voice is a tool of creation, and you really have the power to uplift or tear down in your home. And I think that this can be one of the toughest rights to implement. And I think it's important to speak with mindfulness. And when you forget, and you will, because that's what happens when you're parenting, you have moments that you forget your manners, you forget to speak the way you want to, but that you make room to apologize and role model what it means to make amends when you don't show up the way you mean to. I believe in apology. I think it's a really important part of parenting and life, because
Definitely.
we're only human. Yes.
Yes.
Do you have any questions? You want me to keep going?
No. I keep on nodding because, and the apology for me is so important, because I feel, and when you say, the right, using the right words and the speech is, I get so saddened sometimes to hear how adults can speak to children as if they were, not, that they didn't deserve the respect that any other, other person would. Sometimes I say, you would never talk to a colleague this way. You would never talk to your own parents like this. Why are you talking to a child in such a negative, mean way? So I love that you've included that. And the apology piece to me is so important to share our humanity with them, right? We make mistakes too. And it's okay to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to, I made a mistake and I'm going to try to do better next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Of course. Yes. And then the fourth one is the right use of power. I think it's important to wield your power with care, as you're mentioning, the respect piece. I think you are the one responsible for setting boundaries, discipline, and you ultimately have the say. For whatever issue might arise along the 18 years that you're blessed to have your children under your roof. So I think it's important to not abuse, this power, and be intentional in the framework that you set for your child. And that's going to look different for everyone. Everyone has different ideas of what they want and boundaries they want to set. So just try to make some time to be intentional about what it is you're doing. And then finally, the fifth one is the right use of love. And this is by far my favorite right. I believe that love is the cure for all that ails us, parenting and beyond. And I think this right should be used as many times a day as you can aspire to. I think that, letting your child know how much you love them, you're there for them, will plant their spirit in deep, rich soil as they grow. And I think you also want to give your love freely and without expectation. Your child will likely mirror the love that you give them. But, as they get older, the teenagers, they might not, express it back the way you hope they will. But if you're giving it to them, it's being received and it is making a difference. So, I just can't drive that right home enough. So hopefully that helps picture of, the supportive parenting protocol that's really aimed to help. Check.
No, and I love these 5 rights, but it's interesting that you say it's the 5 rights of parenting, because to me, these are the 5 basic needs that children need, right? That are really, that love is so important, that love and security from the beginning to build that foundation, from the start, that they have a secure attachment, that they know they've been born into a safe place where they are loved no matter what. So important. Beautiful. Thank you. So this is part of, when you said the stop, this is part of that self-reflection to make sure that you've got these 5 kind of rights, as you call them, understood and in your heart and in your gut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And do you work with parents like before they become parents? Because to me, these are just wonderful questions and contemplations to have before even becoming a parent, right? So that especially that self-reflection and that the intent and value piece, to me, I think is so important, especially when we're co-parenting, that we're on the same wavelength, that we have kind of that knowledge of the values that we want to bring to our family.
Absolutely. I think reflection is really a superpower. And I leave reflection questions in the end, at the end of every chapter of my book, because I think it's important, not only to read, there's so much out there, so much information, but I think it's really important to also turn the mirror around and look at yourself and ask yourself, how does this apply to me? What does this look like? What does this feel like? Not simply to passively read, information, but to also take it a little deeper and internalize it. And then, if changes are needed, that you give yourself the opportunity to go there. And so I believe in reflection, 100%.
But do you work with both parents on helping them kind of evaluate what their intentions and their values are?
Sure. So no, I do not do any coaching or anything of that nature.
Okay.
I just wrote this book, and I have been really, I write, I connect, and I love there. Those are my roles right now. And so I'm connecting. I'm really just still working on getting my message of wellness out, tied to my book. And I'm doing a lot of tie testing and sharing information that way, but I'm not working or coaching parents one-on-one.
Okay. Wonderful. But I would strongly suggest to get whoever's listening that are becoming parents to get this book in your hands, and that this be kind of a homework that you do before becoming parents, because I feel that a lot of kind of the conflict that arises in our co-parenting is because we didn't talk these things through. We didn't have a moment of reflection before the children entered our lives.
Absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Did you want me to continue unpacking the framework?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Before I forget.
I know, because I'll take you. I'm so intrigued. I will take you down. So please, yes.
Okay. So the second part of my framework is drop. And, drop is learning to drop any trauma, or personal past lived experiences that are keeping you from living in the now. I think that by engaging with this, you allow yourself to be more present in your own life and for your family. And I think that this step is very freeing. I think sometimes this work, you can navigate on your own, and other times it can be valuable to lean on a licensed therapist or a life coach to help you shed skins that you no longer wish to wear. And so that's the second part of this framework, is kind of maybe going places that you've maybe closed the book on, or you don't want to open the door on, but if it's something that's there that you haven't made time to make peace with, and it's not about forgetting things in your life, because we all have tough stuff we're asked to deal with. But I think coming to a healthier place within your life so that it's not distracting from what's in front of you is really valuable. And it's good for your mental health as well. So that's the second.
Yes. Yeah. And I will say just that, leaving our baggage behind, the whole drop, I think it's so important to be aware that parenting sometimes will reawaken things that we thought we had dropped, right? There's the way that we interact with children, there's a situation and all this, and it's like, oh, where did that come from, right? And it's oftentimes things that we didn't drop. So very important work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think you're right too. I mean, I think it can be triggering. You're a parent, you're working around the clock and you're stressed and you're, not always operating at the highest level. It can be hard to, take care of yourself and unpack this stuff. But I do think it does allow you to see where you still have, work to do or holes or things that need to be mended. And so I appreciate you saying that.
Me.
The third part is grow, and this is about learning to lean on habits that will help you expand as a parent. So this can be through diet, mindfulness, exercise, sleep, reducing substance in your life if that's something that you want to improve. That ends up being really important to thank your children for all that they teach you. And so I always leave that in, because I think as much as, we are teaching our children, or our children are teaching us just as much, if not more, about who we are and how we're continuing to, evolve on this human continuum. And then glow is learning to take what you've learned from my framework and start applying it to your life and living it in the world. And so, glow also encompasses being more intentional in how you move through life and making time to take care of you so you can better serve others. I talk about, self-care. I think self-care is so important. And I think it's something that should not be, shouldn't be having as a month, once every 6 months. But I talk about, the self-care should be a daily practice. And even if it's 5 minutes, making that time in your life to take care of you will make you a more luminous person, and it will make you better at your job. So it'll make you happier. You'll speak kinder. If you take care of you, you're going to be able to take care of others in a much healthier way.
Yes. Thank you for that. And when you say grow, that children teach us, I think it's also fascinating how, because we have other humans to take care of, we become, I think, at least I can speak for myself, just a lot more intentional about maybe the foods that we're going to bring into our homes, the activities, the screens and all this, because we are, wanting to do the best for them. And that helps us do the best for ourselves as well, right? Because we're growing with them. So not only do they help us, they teach us a lot of things, but I think the adjustments that we make in our day-to-day life because of them ends up helping us too.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah. And glow, I love that, because, we do talk a lot about self-care, and I think it gets a little, it's been kind of a catchy phrase of, you've got to take care of yourself and so forth. But I think it is like detrimental to our family's health, to our personal health, to our children's health, that we do take care of ourselves. And like you say, it is a daily practice. For me, I know that the parents that I work with, I just remind them to just, several times a day to ask themselves, what do I need right now? Right? It could be just a glass of water. I mean, or a cup of tea or whatever, that it doesn't have to be, going to the spa and all that, which is lovely every once in a while, of course. But it is that daily, reflection of, you're doing a great job. I mean, it might just be talking to yourself in the mirror, just saying, everything's okay. You're doing a great job and I love you and things are good, right? And I think that's so important to do. Yes. And to model that to our children.
Yes.
What if I may ask, like, what are your go-to self-care? I know we were talking offline, you just came back from having a few days by yourself, which I think is a lovely, lovely, lovely self-care. I have a girlfriend who takes off for the weekend on her birthday every year, which is, funny because oftentimes mothers are, for Mother's Day on their birthday, they're supposed to stick around and be celebrated. But sometimes, no, our present is, we just want to get away. So I love that you do that every once in a while. But yeah, what are your kind of go-to daily self-care?
Sure. Yeah. So for daily, for me, I have really, meditation has been like a life-changing practice that I've incorporated into my daily life. And I think for me, I try to do my meditation in the morning before my kids get up, and when the house is quiet, the energy's quiet. And for me, taking that time in the morning to, I think practice gratitude, to get quiet, to, say my thanks for all the blessings in my life has really, it's just been a game changer. And it helps me too. Then when my kids show up, they get out of bed, I am ready to receive them. And I've taken a minute to take care of my heart. And so then I'm better able to take care of theirs. And so meditation is a huge part of my daily practice. And then I love hot yoga. I love the outdoors. So I try to make time for my yoga practice, and, either doing trail running or hiking or just being outside. For me, those are my immediate go-tos, or the gym. I love the gym too. So those are kind of what I lean on for maintenance. But that looks different for everybody, and so those
it does, right?
For me. And if you don't have a practice, maybe consider what that might look like for you.
Right. And it can be, like Holly says, it can be very simple. It can be just, to incorporate. I mean, for me, movement has been a big game changer in my life, of just being consistent in taking care of my physical body, because I feel healthier, I feel stronger. It plays on your mental and so on and so forth. So that has been a wonderful one. Meditation is wonderful. I just have a hard time staying consistent, but I know it does me a lot of good, but it's just that, I admire that you have that daily practice, but like you said, it's not for everybody. One thing that, because you're modeling all of this self-care, how are your boys? And I don't know the age of your sons. What are their ages?
Yeah, so our youngest is 9. We have one that's 12, and we have twins that are 13. So they're all still at home, and
okay,
still in the thick of parenting. So it's also fun to be doing this work, and walking right alongside all of the fellow parents out there. It's it feels like I'm in the right place at the right time.
And so my question about your children is, because they see their mother, taking good care of herself and so forth, have they developed kind of daily self-care practices?
So they know that there's always an open invitation that they're welcome to come, and sit with me. If they want to sit with me when I'm on my mat, I ask that if they step into the space, that they just keep it quiet and respectful. And They don't always show up, but they do sometimes. And so it's fun to see like who will, trickle down in the morning. A lot of times I'm doing it before they're awake, but if they, I usually have one or two that might, show up at any given time. And so I know that it's making a difference. It's not something that I force. I really think that your wellness and your mental well-being needs to be on your terms, and you need to, connect with what feels good to you. And so I know that that's what works for me, but it might not work for my kids. And so I'm not pushing it, but I just want them to know that it's available if that serves them.
Yeah. No, no, and it wasn't, like pushing it, but just sometimes, how is that mirror, how are they reacting to that? And it'll be interesting to see as they, get older, if they pick up on some of these kind of daily rituals as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think your kids, you're always role modeling for your kids, whether you remember you are or not. So I think, even if it doesn't seem like you're making an impact, they are sponges and they're soaking that energy up that's present in their home. So I think whatever
Mm.
it is you're doing, they're paying attention to, even if they're not always actively engaging with it, they are aware.
Yeah. So one thing you did mention at the very beginning with stop is this idea of being very intentional and trying as best possible to not multitask, to be on our digital devices and all of that. What is like your household policy or your family policy vis-a-vis devices and things like that? I'm just intrigued if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Sure, I'm happy to. So I try to do a lot of my work when my kids are at school. Doesn't mean I don't have things I work on in the evening, but we try to meal times for sure. We don't have screens on. I really want to have that human to human connection and check in with our kids about their day and have make that time sacred. And we've also waited longer than most to give our children cell phones, and so screens are really a challenge in this day and age, and it's hard to, I think, not fold to the societal pressure for your kids to have screens. And so, they have access to doing some of the video game stuff, but I actually put them away. I put screens away for the week. And so, they're not available, in terms of like video games. And so that is something that I feel like has been effective in terms of it's something they look forward to, but it's also not a daily distraction. And then they can focus on school during the week. Our boys, we've waited until they're ready to go to ninth grade. We just are giving them phones now, which has not been an easy thing to, you know, wait on when, we hear the complaints of, well, everyone else has phones and, but I really feel like it's important for your kids to be kids and not lose their childhood. And I think for a lot of youth, there's been a lot of anxiety and depression and issues related to, cell phone use and social media and these that are, I think just distracting your kids from learning how to have that childhood and that human to human connection. So we've been really intentional with trying to prolong it as long as possible. Our kids are definitely not disconnected, but they're also not as dialed in as probably a lot of kids are in this day and age.
Perfect, perfect. No, I asked because that's something that I'm very kind of, well, I guess worried because I see, I navigated all of that, prior to this whole kind of, the smartphones and all of that. So I just have a lot of compassion for parents today because it's true. It's a heavy thing to be navigating to, do you give them, do you not? Am I, am I being a good parent, bad parent, whatever. And so I'm always intrigued, like how others navigate. But it sounds like you have, set very good intentions and values around like you say, the human connection, which is the most important at this time. So
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Any, on the topic of kind of digital world, have you seen like in your wellness, knowledge and things, have you seen how the maybe digital connection for even for parents, how has that affected their parenting?
Well, I think, this isn't, my total area of expertise, but I will say I think people are just more distracted than ever, and it's hard when, you can do everything you need to do from your phone. And so it's not just, a phone used to be you just pick up and you have a conversation, you hang it up, and then you got, get on with your day. Now, your phone, it's your tool for connection, but it's also your tool for work, for social, engagement, for entertainment. And so I think, my concern is that, a lot of parents are also, addicted to their devices and their screens. And I think that unfortunately screens are used a lot in this age to, babysit children, which I think is unfortunate. And I think a lot of working parents who are struggling to, tick all the boxes. And so I think they have good intention. That maybe there's a lot of screen use that is detrimental to a certain level. And I think we just need to be mindful to, again, role model and teach our kids that it's okay to engage, but it's also important to put it down and go out and play. And that starts with you. I mean, you're the ones who, your children are watching you use your devices, and I think you have a responsibility to set good parameters and teach them healthy boundaries so that as they grow, they can lean on their devices, but they also know how to disengage and have healthy relationships.
Yes, yes, very, very true. And like I say, it is a conundrum these days, but it's interesting because actually, so we're recording this in June. Tomorrow, June 13th, I have an episode with a woman, Erin Lochner, who is the opt-out family. And it's just fascinating how, she very intentionally uses her device just for what it's meant to be, is a phone. And, that's like, okay, it's like not being so dependent on technology and having connections, people over pixels, as she said, was fascinating. So I encourage you to, yeah. Any other kind of maybe revelations that you've had over the years, or maybe just the feedback that you've gotten from your book, that what do you see maybe parents struggling with the most these days?
Well, I think, in terms of I think that, again, the self-care is huge. I think there has been this feeling that self-care is selfish. And so I think it's getting better, but I still think we need a reframe. And I think that we really need to fully weave this concept into the fabric of our society. And I think parents need to feel more grace in terms of being able to take care of themselves, and as I said, I think I believe in daily self-care, not just every now and then. And I think that when you are tended to and nourished, you become a much better caregiver. And I think that when you're running on empty, it makes it much more challenging to give of your energy and of your love. And so I think that's a huge one. And I want to make sure I'm answering your question. Was there
just if you had seen like just more of an observation or maybe first an observation like what you're seeing parents struggle with, and this notion of self-care I think makes total sense. Like you say, it's always been deemed as kind of this selfishness, and yet when you were saying that, I'm thinking of oftentimes and again this might be controversial what I'm going to say, but it seems like it's a male female kind of thing, in that I think it's way more acceptable that dad goes to the gym before coming home or on his way to work or all this. And yet when mom wants to take time to go to the yoga class or to the gym or whatever, it's not as acceptable, maybe. And like you say, maybe selfish or so forth. And it's true, like there needs to be a change in how we perceive the importance of taking care of ourselves so we can better care for others.
Yes, absolutely. And I think too, I think I also want to mention, so, you know, in terms of challenges, I think self-care, we just talked about screens. I think screens are a huge one. I also think that, you know, I'd love to see better communication around this idea that children are a burden. I think that we've created and passed down
Yes.
mental roadblocks generationally. And I think we need to stop doing this because it becomes internalized and really is counterproductive to connection and a new way of thinking and being with our children. So, I mean, you think about, like, you know, they say with the terrible twos, or, you know, the teenage years, you know, there's all of these negative time periods that we keep passing on about how kids are a problem here, they're a problem there. And really, kids are awesome. Kids are amazing.
They are.
And you have
They
certain
are.
moments, but I think we need to stop making them feel like they're a burden. So I would love to champion, you know, just kinder dialogue and really to stop passing down these mental roadblocks that aren't really helping our parents or our children. So that's something that I think can still work.
Yeah, thank you for that, Holly. That is so important. And I've been, you know, working at that for a long time. And it's funny because when I first started my business, I remember telling a mother that I was an advocate for children in their own homes. And she got very offended with this word advocate, because for me, it was really, you know, I want children to have a place in their own homes to feel respected. And like you say, not be this, you know, burden. And I would even say, you know, having a child has been, you know, we think of it as this horrible, painful experience. It doesn't have to be that way either, but that's a topic for another day. But yes, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. Well, this has been really delightful, Holly. I'm so glad that we had this conversation, and I thank you for your time. I always like to kind of circle back to kind of a more parenting and personal question, if I may. And you said your eldest are 13. So if you were to go back 14 years ago when you were first expecting your children, what wise words would you tell yourself knowing all that you know today?
Yes. So, you know, I think that I think really going back to like when I was truly expecting my kids before I even knew anything, I think I've got a few things, but I think you want to be open to however the birth of your child is going to go. My sister just had a baby recently, and so I was just reminded of this. You know, I think that, you know, babies come at their own time and in their own way, and that was my case as well. I envisioned one thing and something different happened, and so I think, you know, remember to go with the flow and receive them with joy, despite the course that you're taking on. You know, I was much more relaxed with our third and fourth sons. I think it's also important to sleep when your baby sleeps. This was advice I was given by my pediatrician, and something worth sharing with other parents who have, you know, who are just starting out. I think it's important to pencil in self-care from the start. We've talked a lot about that, so I'm not going to go into detail. You know, and I think it's also important to schedule one-on-one time with your significant other away from your children. I think it's really healthy, and it keeps your partnership or marriage intact and thriving. And then finally, I think you don't want to stop living and dreaming once you start a family. So I believe you can do both, and I think it's important to you both. And, you know, the sky's the limit to, you know, the life you want to live.
Beautiful. Yes, thank you for that. That's all of those are very, very important points. Thank you. Any parting words that you would like to leave our listeners with today, Holly?
I just want to say thank you to you for having me on as a guest. And, you know, for all of our parents out there, you know, make time to take care of you, activate your wellness, and be more intentional in how you're choosing to live and parent.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thanks again for taking the time to be here with us today, Holly. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.